So, at the end of the day, how do you know? Is it for you? Well, what would it feel like to be able to double or even triple your productivity in the next 28 days? What kind of money would that be worth? What kind of things could you accomplish if you knew that you could plug into these higher mental states? Okay. I call it finding the force, right? Because it's plugging into a higher mental state. Now, don't just believe me. All of this is actually backed by science, and we have 30 years of research from HeartMath to prove that when we are able to drop into a different state of brain waves, which is as simple as learning how to breathe properly, believe it or not, and making it into a habit, you can access a whole new level of consciousness that I call finding the force. But how do we actually do this? Well, let's go back to my story a little bit. We talked about rainmaking, right? We talked about how I survived this illness. And by the way, you know what it was? It was E. coli poisoning in my well. I was living in a house where the well was grandfathered in, and the farming practices across the river for me had changed, and they had actually toxified our leach field and were dumping E. coli contaminants into our well. So we didn't know what was going on. Western doctors never look for things like E. coli because it almost doesn't exist in the United States. I got really lucky because my kung fu master went out and was dowsing, and he went right to the well. And he remembered from mainland China when he was a kid that there were people who actually had E. coli poisoning. Now, it's a miracle that I lived through it, but that's exactly what rainmaking is. It's a place of miracles. So, is rainmaking for you? And how does it actually apply to the normal modern person's life, right? I mean, you're not going to go live out west with a witch doctor. You are not dying of E. coli, I hope. So, where does rubber meet road? Let's talk about this. In the next 28 days, what would it be worth to you to actually double or triple your productivity in wildly unpredictable ways? And I say wildly unpredictable because we actually have scientific studies and data to prove that when you shift your brainwave state and you plug into the force, that's how you get to this place of miracles that we call rainmaking in traditional Native culture. Now, how does that work out for the modern person? What does that look like? Okay, it's a four-step process that I call four keys to finding the force. It's fun, it's easy, and it's simple. But don't be fooled by its Zen-like simplicity. Sometimes the most simple things that are right in front of our eyes that we've been, let's say, ignoring or not aware of are the most powerful things. So, we're going to go through the steps really fast. We're not going to teach you each one of them, but it has to do with connecting the breath to the brains. You have more than one brain in your noggin. Then you have your heart, which is another brain that has more neurons in it than your actual brain tissue. Can you believe that? And then you have the gut, which is yet another brain. But just in your cranium, you actually have four brains. When we sync all four of these brains up and we drop into this quiet state where our heart and our brain are synced up, right? Remember those waves? I know I wasn't that great at math, but there was something called a sine wave and a cosine wave, and they were opposite. Remember those guys? When two waves are in unison, they actually double each other's strength, all right, amplitude, power. So when your brain waves and your heart waves are in unison, you're finding the force, and your brain waves drop into a quiet state. Your heart expands its field, as Joe Dispenza has proven in his research. Love it. And you become a different animal. You become a wildly different thing when you're plugged into the force. So it's as simple as understanding how the breath and the brain work together. When we lock into this different state and we do it frequently, it becomes more habitual. That's why I say that it takes 28 days, because it has to become something that becomes normal, right? We recommend that our clients do this breathwork technique 2 to 3 minutes each hour, rather than doing meditation for an hour each day, which realistically, not that many modern people are going to do. I'm not saying that you shouldn't, but in reality, I find that my clients do not actually do that. My clients are often very busy people. They're human resources professionals, they're chiropractors, they're doctors, they're lawyers, and they are super busy, right? So asking them to take an hour a day to do meditation is maybe just not realistic because they don't do it. What I learned though over the past 20 years of working with all of these clients is that people will actually do 2 or 3 minutes an hour. And by doing 2 or 3 minutes an hour of simple 8 breaths, you can make it more and more habitual and normal for you to be in this highly beneficial brainwave state. Okay, so what does the finding the force look like? Your mental state shifts, your brain gets quiet. We all have this mental chatter, right? I refer to it as the bad roommate. You know, it's that person that's talking in your head, the storyteller that's telling stories constantly about what's going on. It's like a narrator or a peanut gallery. Well, that peanut gallery is actually causing friction and resistance, and it's keeping you out of this state called finding the force. When you're one with the force and the force is one with you, then you have an open channel to a higher level of consciousness. So your heart actually produces a much stronger electromagnetic field, okay, like a bubble of energy can produce a much stronger electromagnetic field than your brain. So when you can get your brain quiet and you drop into this heart state, the force, you actually open up a whole new panel. It's like imagine you were driving your car for 20 years, the same car, and you never saw this panel. One day you look down and you see that there's this panel on your dashboard. And when you open it up, you have access to like 10G intelligence, wildly unpredictable quantum intelligence, right? Problem solving abilities, intuition, the ability to connect with other people, the ability to listen in a different way, where you're listening to your clients, you're listening to your family and friends, you're listening to your staff, and your staff is listening to each other at a different level. Okay. We sometimes refer to it as heart based listening, but I know that sounds like Hallmark card, it sounds like Valentine's Day, but it is not some kind of snowflakey, namby-pamby thing. It is incredibly powerful. Heart math has proven over the past 30 years of research that when you are in this heart centrific state and your mind is quiet, you are 300 to 400 times more productive and powerful. Mental state is more fast, you're more plugged in, and you're predictive in ways that you could not currently imagine or envision. So if you think that it sounds like it's impossible, all you have to do is try it. Okay, so mainly it consists of breath work and dropping into this heart centered state. It also, we recommend a new diet. I'm not going to lie to you. If you really, really want your heart, brain, and gut to connect properly, you do have to nourish your gut. At the other end of things, the reason why a lot of people work with plant medicine and my corporate clients are nuts about it is because it unblocks you. A lot of this chatter in the mind and these stories, and we're going 1,000 miles per hour, that's because of different traumas, different programs. I think of it like a scratch on your record, okay? Remember back in the day when we had records and they would skip? So it's like having a scratch on your record and it's skipping, right? So when you have these blockages, you're not going to reach peak performance because of that mental chatter. All right. So you have to learn how to quiet the mind with simple breath work that I can teach you in 5 minutes. But the important part of these techniques is that you're willing to repeat it. So until you understand how powerful it is, oftentimes people won't practice it. But all it takes is 2 to 3 minutes each hour, and it becomes more and more normal to be able to plug into this altered state of consciousness that is wildly powerful. And you know what else the best part of it is? It's a joyful state. It's a state where you feel connected to the world around you. You feel like life has meaning and purpose. And so a lot of the depression and anxiety and trauma that people carry around starts to melt away. And that's that third step where we start to unblock people from the things that are holding them back from their highest destiny. So this is Courtney Starhart. I invite you to reach out to me. You can follow the link to the website called Finding the Force, and I look forward to talking with you. Bye for now.